Hello again, it's Al here from musicguidepodcast.com. Just wanted to give you guys a quick look at Melodyne and how to use it. I've got a comped vocal track. This is the backup vocal part that I recorded and comped. The song is called Summertime by Dylan Wallace. And I'm going to open up an instance of Melodyne here. I want it to be the first insert on the track so that the sound is not getting processed by anything before it goes into Melodyne. The Melodyne window will open up, and what we'll have to do is actually transfer the audio into Melodyne. Melodyne has to sort of take its own snapshot recording of what's happening. So I'm going to click transfer, and I'm going to move this out of the way. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to highlight the area I want, and I'm going to hit play.
The sunset hot, sweat beer, and the going's tough.
I'm going to zoom in. This bottom scroll bar here goes side to side, but if I grab the edge of it, there's a little magnifying glass that pops up. So I'm just going to drag that inwards. I'm going to do the same on the other side, drag it inwards so that we get real close. I can also do the same with the scroll bar on the right here. I can go up and down with it. I can also zoom in as much as I want to. So the main functions of Melodyne that I tend to use are the pitch tool, the pitch modulation tool, and the pitch drift tool. So to access those quickly, I just right-click anywhere in the screen, and I get this little pop-up menu here. Usually it'll be defaulted to this main tool, which I almost never use. So I'll right-click and select the pitch tool, and from there, I can double-click notes, and that will send them and snap them to our pitch grid. So you can see that that's relatively easy to do with some of these notes that are a little bit flatter in pitch. Some of the ones that are a little bit more complex in their pitch, I may want to adjust manually, so I can hold the Alt key or the Option key, and it'll actually give me a little sort of synthetic preview of what the note is, and I can drag that up and down and sort of find the note that I want. So these are kind of scooped notes, so I kind of want them to finish on the note and start a little bit beneath it. Now, if there's a note with a little bit too much pitch drift in it, we can right-click and select the pitch modulation tool. We can click and drag up or down, and you'll see the pitch graph here stretch outwards or inwards. Outwards, inwards. So if you go too crazy with this, you'll get a real sort of T-pain kind of effect, and you can even double-click on your note to reset it or to flatten it completely. So if we do that to a couple of these notes, you'll really hear
Sunset hot, sweat beer.
the effect that that has. So I'm going to undo that with the undo arrow here. But I just want to bring this in a little bit, and then maybe switch back to the pitch tool, hold Alt, shift it up just a touch there. This one I'll just double-click into place, and this last one I'll double-click into place. Let's hear how that sounds.
Sunset hot, sweat beer, and the going's tough.
So that worked pretty well. Generally with Melodyne, you want to make it so that it's not obvious that you made any pitch corrections. I think this note here I could bring in a little bit and maybe up a little bit.
Sunset hot, sweat beer, and the going's tough.
And ideally, you want to be listening in context, or at least with the lead vocal, which is what I tend to do. So let's see how it sounds with the lead vocal.
Sunset hot, sweat beer, and the going's tough.
Cool. One other tool I'll use is the pitch drift tool. So if I right-click here and go down to pitch drift, I can adjust the sort of overall slant of the pitch. So you can see if I click and drag up or down on this note here, I can sort of twist it if I'm finding that it's annoying that it's sort of having that falling motion to it. But I'm fine with the way it sounds, so I'm going to leave that alone. And finally, if I need to make some time adjustments, Melodyne's really useful for that. So I can go up here to Edit, Time Grid, and choose the resolution I want to see. Generally, that's 8th notes or 16th notes. In this song, I think it's going to be 16ths. So I sung a little bit ahead right here. So what I can do is right click and go over to my timing tool. Just click the top one. I'm not sure what these do. I only ever use this top one. And I can hold Alt again and just slightly shift this note into place. And it doesn't take much to really have a big impact on the timing of these notes.
Sunset, hot sweat, beer, and the going's tough.
So a little bit late now. I put it a little bit too far back, so I'm going to bring it forward a bit.
Sunset, hot sweat, beer, and the going's tough.
So that sounds a little bit better to me. And I think I can actually maybe move this note forward a little bit.
Sunset, hot sweat, beer, and the going's tough.
Yeah, and even this tough here, I can move this one in. So if you grab from the center with the timing tool, it'll move this whole note without changing anything. If I grab from the edge, see the tool looks a little bit different. It'll actually stretch it in that direction rather than move it. Either way, it's going to sort of warp the performance around the note that you're moving. So you'll see that this note here on the left is going to be shifted a little bit to the left when I shift this one. So sometimes you may have to sort of play a little bit of a balancing act between these two notes that you're editing.
Sunset, hot sweat, beer, and the going's tough.
So that's lining up pretty nicely. And finally, I will use this note separation tool. So say, for instance, there's a middle section of a note like this one here, but I don't want to affect this trail at the end. Because typically if you affect the trails at the end too much, you get that artificial Melodyne sound. So I might split here and maybe split, say, here if the beginning had a little bit of an onset to it. And then I can just work on only this midsection and flatten that out a little bit, but still maintain the end fall off. So it should sound pretty natural.
Sunset, hot sweat, beer, and the going's tough.
So still a little bit too slammed for me, so I'm going to leave it alone. But that is a nice technique to use. The one other interesting use for the note separation tool is if you've already made a separation, you can double click it to unseparate, or you can unseparate a separation that Melodyne has made on its own. If I wanted to edit this whole note as one big chunk. One last thing I'll show you with the pitch tool, if I double click one of these sort of yellow wavy lines here, that will fully separate these two notes. So now I could move this note on top of this note and it won't warp that performance anymore. So generally not something you want to do, but occasionally that comes in handy. And if I want to undo that, I can either click undo or I can double click this area here. You can see the icon changes. Wait for it to change and we get our wavy line back. And when we're done tuning our vocal, if we want to commit it, then we can select the area we want to commit, right click on the Melodyne insert and say commit up to this insert, and I'll select edit selection on track. I could select the whole track if I wanted that. Hit OK, and now we have a printed, tuned sort of track. I'll usually rename that tuned or TND, but you can see that our other inserts here, our RVox compressor and our reverb send and our volume and everything has remained the same and unchanged. So, but Melodyne is now gone. Melodyne has now been baked into this track, and this track is now tuned. So I can go back to this old track and hide and make inactive in case I need to bring it back later and do another edit, or maybe I made a mistake in my tuning, so I want to have it around still, so I'll go hide and make inactive. So hopefully that was helpful to you guys. If you have any questions, please leave a comment, and we'll see you for the next one. Thanks for watching.